men aren't going to college for a lot of reasons. One, it sucks nowadays unless you're going for engineering or science, and two, there's no more fun with the Title IX and all these other things.
Are you serious? Get out of here. Man, I wonder if they taught you anything at your high school. Okay, you just don't go to college only for science. You can also go to college to learn how to be a teacher, how to be a lawyer, how to be a psychologist, and the list goes on. And when the has college ever been fun? I mean, unless you party and you're screwing around all day with your friends, then yeah, it's fun. But that's not part of college, though. Anyone who parties all day at college just to have fun or pick up chicks is a stupid mother who might as well work a low-paying job at McDonald's. Look, I'm not against having some fun while you're in college, but your reason for going to college shouldn't just be for kicks. Don't go to college if you don't take your education seriously. I'm done with this BS. I'm coming to this intro right now. Tomorrow, ladies and gents, it is I, the cranky Crimson Crusader, your #1 source for anti-MGTOW content, just trying to understand how Square comes up with this stuff. Welcome to part 4 of Comment Wars, everyone. Are you ready for another round of cancerous content? Yeah, I also want to die when I hear these kinds of ignorant arguments. Now, originally this was going to be the last video in the Comment Wars series. However, I decided to split the original video into 2 parts because it ended up being over 40 minutes long, and I'm just not going to make you watch for 40 minutes straight. If you haven't seen the previous parts of the Comment Wars series, go watch those first and then come back to this. As you all know, this part of the Comment Wars series is where I respond to the arguments of MGTOW YouTuber Square Peg. In this video, I'll be finishing up my fiery responses to points about college, and I'll be responding to his claims about the black community and other financial-related topics. Again, I want to reiterate that I am here to respond and satire Square's arguments. Forgive me if I might come off as provocative or mean-spirited in this video, but I'm just very passionate in what I believe in. Any frustration I may have is directed towards my strong disapproval of some of Square's opinions, arguments, and not in him personally. Again, I am not here to strawman, I'm just defending my stance, and I think it's also important for all anti-MGTOW to watch these videos and learn something about what the MGTOW community is saying. I will be responding to clips and paraphrasing Square's arguments to keep this video flowing, and while watching this video, I want you to think about what it means to go to college. More information will be revealed at the end of this video. Let's jump right into Square's arguments.
These employers would still need somebody to fill those positions, and therefore they would have to hire a man, and then a man would be able to enact his dominance, get a high-paying job, and then look for a hypergamous woman. But instead, they're giving the job to a hypergamous woman, and then this guy no longer has a job, and now she's saying she doesn't want to date him. You see how it doesn't work the other way around? If you give the guy the job, he will date the unemployed woman. But if you give the woman the job, she won't date the unemployed guy. And that's the problem with this situation, and that's the problem with the depopulation.
Okay, here you say that by giving a job to a hypergamous woman, they will not date the man because she has more money. First of all, you have no real proof so far to definitively prove that hypergamy exists, or it's even that hypergamy is found in every woman. And second, you don't seem to understand what women are looking for in a man. Just because a man has money doesn't mean the relationship will last or that the woman will want the man. Even if a man does dominate and dates a hypergamous woman as you claim, this really doesn't solve anything. Your average woman is not going to want to date a rich man that is wimpy and watches sports all day. While money is important to many people, it's not the only thing important to women. The #1 thing that many women are looking for in a man is communication, excitement, and understanding in a relationship. I get this information from Psychology Today, from this article written by Suzanne Dejes White. I hope I'm not butchering that name. And she's a licensed counselor and a professor at the Northern Illinois University. So she does academic research, so I'm sure she is not making this stuff up. So that's kind of my piece of evidence to refute what you're saying. So I'll be leaving a link to that article if you're interested in the description, so you can go check that out. Anyways, I think it is black and white to say that either a man will be unemployed and undateable if a woman gets the job. We live in a modern society, not in the 1950s where women were dependent on men. Women should be able to fend for themselves. They should be independent now. Now, why do you want women to be dating men for money? That's what it seems like you're saying. If that was the case, the women are better off marrying an ATM machine that can give them all the money they want. With all jokes aside, I really don't see how more women having high-paying jobs will stop a woman from loving someone, or from loving a man. If the man has a job and the woman is dependent on him, even if the man has a job and the woman is dependent and looking for a man who has money, there's no guarantee the man would even date the woman or even take care of her well. In this day and age, women should be able to help themselves, and they don't need a man for money all the time. I think people should not be dating for someone because of their financial status. Should be dating someone for who they are as a person. I know that sounds very cliche, but that's really what love, I think, and dating and relationships should be about. To me, it seems that your whole argument is presenting that the main reason a woman's going to date a man is because of money, and I just simply don't believe this is true.
Here on the college thing, you're even admitting, you say, I will admit that women will most likely use college as a way to boost their social status. Yes, exactly. And then from that, they will project their social status, thinking that their social and economic status is the same as their beauty status. Because to a woman, social economic status is the same as a beauty status is to a man. So she's projecting her idea of what she's looking for onto men. And then that's where you get the not dating down from, where a woman might be physically way less attractive than another man, and she won't date him or marry him because he earns less than her or he doesn't have a college degree, even though he might be earning more than her through a trade.
First of all, how do you know that a woman thinks her social and economic status are the same as her beauty status? I don't see any reason to believe that is true. Yes, it is true that I stated that women will most likely go to college to improve their social status. Where I define social status is your value according to the standards of your society or culture. Now, with that being said, what I meant to say by this was that people will go to college to improve their value in society in order to increase their chances of getting a job. The whole reason why you go to college is to get a job so you can move up the ladder in society and improve your life. This is something reasonable that both men and women do, and I see nothing wrong with it. Also, I'd like to know what you define social status is as well, Square, and I'm sorry if I kind of confused you on what I meant by social status. Anyways, aside from cherry-picking this quote, you forgot to respond to my other major reason why women usually go to college. They go to college because many popular jobs such as teachers, psychologists, therapists, nurses, and etc. require degrees. I don't think most women go to college just to be popular and party, though I do acknowledge some people will do that. I also disagree that women are trying to use college as a way to up their beauty status. That doesn't really make any sense, and I don't see anything to suggest a woman doing that. If a woman wanted to make if a woman wanted to make her body more attractive, it's just much cheaper to buy beauty products and do plastic surgery than to pay for a degree. And since when did many women think that their beauty status is equivalent to their economic status or education? Again, it just doesn't make sense. Most reasonable women go to college to get a future because in our day and age, women know that there's not going to be any Prince Charming that is going to appear out of nowhere and take care of them for the rest of their life. Women have to be smart and resourceful. There's no way to even prove your statement about women dating that this somehow proves women are not going to date down. Where's your evidence? Where's your proof? Okay, and then here you start talking about how women will not date men because they think that most women are looking for a man who has a better degree or more money. Again, I'm not going to repeat myself about what women are actually looking for. So right here, you're basically oversimplifying relationships between men and women, thinking it's all about getting something out of someone, or that someone's always trying to look for the person of the highest status. While women have similarities in what they all want, they all have different priorities and goals. Instead of focusing on gender and biology, I challenge you to look beyond that and judge people as individuals instead of throwing all women into the same category. Women don't all want the same thing. And in the beginning of your video, you said that everyone is different. So doesn't that mean that women have different individual desires?
If there was less women going to college, there would still be a demand to fill these jobs, and then men would go into it. Men aren't going to college for a lot of reasons. One, it sucks nowadays unless you're going for engineering or science. And two, there's no more fun with the Title IX and all these other things. I mean, you could get accused of rape at any second, so why would you go there if that's what you're going for the fun college experience?
How does less women going to college give more job opportunities for men? You need to clarify what you're saying there. And anyways, it's very common for men and women to choose different jobs anyways, and I'm sure there are plenty of job opportunities for men out there. Don't be so black and white. Just because there's more of one thing doesn't mean there's going to be less of another. Let's try to be open here and consider all the factors before coming up with conclusions. I am also quite troubled of your attitude towards college in regards to your remark that college is only good for science and it's not fun anymore. First of all, anyone who comes to college to have fun shouldn't even bother going. College is a place to learn and move up in society, not to party and screw off with your friends. Such an attitude is immature and childish, and I'm not saying you support that, but I think there's just no reason for that. It's okay to have fun at college, but your focus should be on the studies. Second, I think it's very ignorant to say that college is only good for going into science. Hello, lawyers in certain branches of business require degrees and can be high-paying jobs. Other jobs that are not high-paying that you would go to college for are being a teacher and a psychologist, and those are non-STEM jobs that also require degrees. So no, science is not the only subject you should go to college for. Third, what do you mean you could be accused of rape at any second? Anyone could be accused of anything anywhere at any second. Yes, it's probably true that people are falsely accused on some campuses, and this may be a specific problem on those campuses. However, many colleges have different demographics and campus cultures, which can affect the kinds of problems on each campus. If it is true that this is a college-wide problem, I want to see some very good proof.
Was more to prove hypergamy, because I was saying how in the African American community, the black community, that since the median income of black people is $30,000, and black women can get that from the government, there's less black women that get married versus white people, where white people have close to $50,000 a year median income. So white men, more often than not, are able to offer a female more than the government can. And from that, you can see that there's more marriages between white people.
First, why does a woman need to go to a man for money? Second, maybe the reason why more white people marry than black people is because white people make up the majority of the US population. So it only makes sense that more white people are going to marry. Third, you're using sweeping generalizations and using very narrow-minded black and white logic here. The problem with this is you're only looking at things from the economic and gender standpoint, while simultaneously disregarding the social aspects of the struggles the black community faces. It seems to me that you don't understand the problems of the black community as a whole. First of all, I don't see any evidence suggesting men can't find women. On the contrary, I would argue that it's black women who cannot find good, responsible husbands. This marriage crisis is not because black men don't make as much money as women who are on welfare, but because there is poison in the black culture. What I mean by that is men don't seem to be taking responsibility for their actions, and the women are being forced to pay for the consequences. I'm referring to the family crisis in the black community. In the black community, most women are on welfare, and they're divorced single mothers trying to raise kids. The reason why black women are on welfare is because there's no black man in the family to support the woman. Many black men are sleeping with all these women and having kids, and then running off and taking no responsibility to help raise these kids. But the problem is, in certain communities, lots of black men are involved in crime, they're abusive, and a lot of them are deadbeats. From the woman's perspective, I think she would love to marry a responsible black man who could help bring some love and stability to her life and that of her kids. No one wants to lower themselves to have to rely on the government, but in this situation, her options are very limited. It is in these situations where men can provide that we need welfare. Why should we remove welfare and hope that these irresponsible, selfish guys will somehow provide for a woman they don't even care about? Now, I'm not saying all black men are like this, but this is a very common problem found in the black community. Now, also, why would a woman want to marry a man like that, who is irresponsible? if you look at it from the perspective of the black men, why raise a family when you can go around sleeping with whoever you want? And also, why would a man who can go around with all these other women want to marry a single mother? You know, a lot of these poor attitudes that come from these kinds of guys develop with boys who don't have fathers, and that they basically hang around with bad influences to fill the void. Now, without a father to help teach them how to be a civilized man in society and manage their masculinity, this creates a discipline problem, and is one factor of many why some black men can't marry women and properly take care of a family. Now, of course, I'm not saying women haven't done anything wrong, but it seems that in this situation, they are suffering the most. This complex crisis has many factors pointing why women go on welfare and don't get married. Here, you are being very black and white and trying to claim that men are the victims and women are the selfish ones who only care about money. It is inaccurate to oversimplify the struggles of the black people in order to prove something that doesn't really apply to this situation, especially if your theory about hypergamy doesn't seem to have any support from psychologists or any credible source. I think it's inaccurate to only use one factor of disparity in wealth between black and white people to prove hypergamy. You are literally watering down the problem and only looking at it on the surface to prove your narrative. And it is this kind of logic is so flawed because while you seem to be proving your point, you are ignoring other evidence that is showing the whole picture. Other factors you even consider are cultural influences, the individual toxicity of certain personalities, the structure of the family, and religious influence. All of these affect what happens in a culture, and there are differences between cultures, and because of these differences between cultures, there will always be different problems. Anyways, the reason why white people are able to find people is not just because they have money, but because they have fathers who discipline them to some degree. Having a father or not in your family makes an enormous difference in the child's life because it is the father who helps discipline the children and enforce good morals. Even in a family, a father can help bring some of the burden off the woman so they can spend more time with their children instead of working long hours or struggling to pay their bills. The issue here is not welfare, but a fatherless community that men in the black community need to solve and show some leadership. And it's a terrible situation. I hope there's some resolution to this very serious problem. Let's move on to your next point. Let's play the next clip. Alright, so after this, then you ask me, and I'm paraphrasing this, you then ask me how we can limit the incentives of welfare and divorce for women. Like you said, welfare is a touchy subject that I don't have all the answers to, and I'm not an expert in this area. However, I will give you my current opinion on welfare, and to be honest, my opinion will probably change as I read more into the situation. First, I think welfare is a good thing for society to have because I believe it is the obligation of humanity to protect and assist those who are poor. I think we as humans find our purpose and help improve society by improving our own community through charity. Food stamps, welfare are all good things as long as they are temporary. Originally, welfare was intended for people to go on temporarily until they got momentum back in their life. However, now people have made a lifestyle out of doing nothing with their lives and living off welfare off the backs of the taxpayer. I think for people in certain situations, we should establish a time limit on welfare depending on how bad a person's situation is. The worse the situation, the more time and money they get to get their life back in order. Anyways, this is just one idea, and we could both probably learn better solutions from other videos. As for limiting the incentives for divorce, the answer is very complicated, but there is a step we can take to improve the situation. Men, women, and all people should advocate for the option of covenant marriages in their state. For those who don't know what covenant marriage is, it's basically a civil marriage that can only be broken if both partners want to leave the marriage or if one of the partners is at fault for something. In the fault situation, the partner who suffered at the hands of the other partner can divorce, but the partner at fault can't. All covenant marriage does is it makes the marriage harder to break or abuse. This kind of protection is only allowed in a few states, however. I think we as men, MGTOW or anti-MGTOW, should work on lobbying for change rather than running from the situation. Again, these are just my opinions, but I hope you found these very interesting and enlightening. Then you talk about how giving free money to women bypasses what men can offer, which explains why men can't get women. Square, can you give me one situation where a woman would rather be on welfare than be married to a stable and good provider? The majority of women who are on welfare have kids and are taking care that they're trying to take care of while trying to hold a job. If I was a woman and I was in her position, I would look for a man who can help raise the children. Welfare doesn't just give the woman free money for no reason. The money is used to help keep her and her child off the streets so that the child can have a somewhat decent life. Many of the reasons why women are in this situation is because either the man has left them or no man wants to be with her. I'm not trying to excuse if the woman is at fault or she's a bad person, but that's just how it is. Now, according to your logic, you think that welfare stops women from wanting a man. First, not everything is about money. Desires for a safe environment and emotional stability should also be taken into consideration. 2. Why would a man want to marry and give his money to a single mother or some poor person? In fact, it's noble to not let economic status stop you from loving someone, but it's really uncommon for a guy to do that or even want to do that. I see MGTOW videos all the time telling people not to marry single mothers. Welfare is a quasi-remedy to substitute the financial providing role the man plays. Whether or not welfare is taken away will not really affect why men can't get women, because no man wants to be the single mother anyways. I'm not trying to hate on single mothers, and in fact I do know someone who has been raised by a single mother, and many single mothers I think are good people. However, they are in a very terrible situation. But what I do understand, I do understand your other concern with the welfare system being abused, and I am for stopping all kinds of corruption in the welfare systems. Ladies and gents, this is the end of Comment Wars Part 4. Congratulations to those who made it through this video, and all the other parts of this series. But before I wrap up this video, here is what I think of Square's arguments. First of all, Square, throughout this part of his response video, he fails to see other obvious factors that may affect situations, which leads him to jump to conclusions. To me, it seems Square has a very limiting perspective of reality because of his lack of reliable sources, and his failure to identify other factors that affect the problems that we have in society. However, I do agree that there is some problems in the welfare system and problems with divorce laws. But I don't believe it's the fault of the courts. Remember, the job of the state courts is to interpret or follow the state law. They don't make the laws. So don't blame them for bad laws. Blame your state representatives who are responsible for creating and drafting these kinds of things. It also seems like you haven't fully read my comments, as you asked me how we could limit the incentives for divorce, when I literally gave a step or a reason for making divorce harder in my comments section. Overall, there may be some truth to a few of Square's claims, but in the rest of these claims, they're just weak arguments based off nothing but assumptions and focusing on certain factors such as money. The point to remember here, Square, is that money isn't everything. Money is just a factor. And one factor is not a simple explanation to the whole complex story. Anyways, in the final installment of Comment Wars series, which is part 5, we'll tackle the final points Square makes in the last part of his video. If you learned something new today, then give this video a like and share with your friends, or dislike this video if you want as well. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment telling me whether you think people should go to college for fun or not. Until next time, my fair ladies and honorable gents, fare thee well.